Good morning. My name is Daphne Cook, and I'd like to welcome you to the third part of our series, Thriving During Uncertainty. Joining us today, we have industry experts from AOI, and they're going to talk us through the reentry process. So all across the country right now, businesses and organizations are in various spots. You have some that are 100% remote. You have others that have brought almost back all of their employees, and there is everything in between. Regardless of where you happen to be, many agree the key to successful reentry is communication. So before we begin this very important topic, if you guys could each just introduce yourself and briefly talk about your role in the process, and then we'll get rolling.
Okay, I am CJ Franco, and I am the Director of Human Resources. And so I've been actively involved in this since the beginning.
I'm Christine Hill. I'm president of the company. We are a commercial general contractor and office furniture company, and we work with a lot of customers dealing with their environments and their space.
I'm Patrick Jensen. I am Vice President of Marketing and Business Development, and I work with these guys to put out the communications.
So as we talked about, businesses are in a variety of spots where they are in the reentry process. So where is AOI in the reentry process?
We are at 100% back to level 1. For us, that means that if they can work from home and be productive, and that's where they are most comfortable, they will. And otherwise, if they are more comfortable and more productive in the office environment, they can be there too. So everybody is re-onboarded and is ready to be back. And if they have to visit the office, they can come in and they understand what the protocols are.
So has your corporate culture changed as a result of COVID?
I think yes. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Yeah, our culture is it is very collaborative. We like to have fun with each other. We like to bring food in and celebrate milestones that our employees are going through, whether it's getting married or having babies or birthdays or anniversaries. We do an anniversary lunch where anybody who came on board during that particular month, we go out to lunch and everybody gets to know each other. And that includes our field employees and our office employees, anybody that was hired during that time. So our entire space is designed to bring people together. We have all company meetings, we have training, we have lots of things that we do that are face-to-face, spending time with each other. And we don't get to do a lot of those things right now. And it does feel like a void. We have started to have some meetings in our conference rooms, and that is we've noticed it's very energizing to be able to do that, but there's just this extra thing that's going on that makes it a little bit different. So as we've brought all of our office folks back in and said you can be in the office, just follow these guidelines, what we're hearing from people is, I miss the connection. I miss being together. I want to be safe, but I miss that piece. And there's some people that have grieved that. That's why they came to work for us, is because of that environment. And it's a tangible environment. We're very proud of it. We've worked hard to create that kind of a working environment. And so it just doesn't feel quite like us yet. So we're looking at ways and have started to find ways to recreate that, even though we've got this extra little, these things that we're having to do that keep us apart.
So how do you celebrate those milestones? Because a part of the celebrations and the breaking bread, that actually, that's building relationship as well. Mm-hmm. So how does that look in this COVID-19 environment?
So we've started.
Well, I think an interesting thing, so I brought on a new employee just as COVID kind of started. And so she's never been in the office, and actually she helps put out a lot of the communications. But one of the things we do is we have a standing meeting every day. We meet and over Teams So I see her, we talk. I did have her and her boy, they're kind of new to Omaha. I had them come over and we sat out on our back patio and had drinks, and so it was physically distanced. But yeah, it's how do you infuse the culture into someone who's never really been in it? And so it's just interacting with the people like CJ and with Chris, and communication is a huge piece of that. Chris sent me something from the field. We just put out a piece yesterday, a hiring piece, and our field manager loved it and commented on it. So I made sure that got back to Amber, our communication specialist, and that's about all you can do, is just kind of over communicate and share a lot.
And I think too, acknowledging that it is an important part of the culture, and then finding a way. So we've been talking about with particularly some of our people that are struggling with this a little bit, and I'm struggling with it too. I like seeing everybody. I enjoy being able to say, hey, we're so glad you're on board, like in that moment, or just engaging with people I don't normally work with on a day-to-day basis, and getting to know them, those spontaneous, impromptu interactions that create a fun and engaging culture. And so I think it starts with acknowledging that there's a void, and acknowledging that it is an important part of the culture. This is who we are, and we don't want that to change. And so how do we recreate that? How do we bring that feel back in? And so what we've been talking about is, first and foremost, we got to get the rules down. How do we make sure everybody's safe? That's first. And once we do that, guys, once we know that we can do this and we can work together and do what we need to do to be successful and accomplish our goals, once we figure that out, we are going to figure out how to have fun again. We are going to figure out what it looks like to do those things that we used to do. If we have to have a bags tournament with masks and we all have our own bags, then that's what we're going to do. But we've been brainstorming on a lot of things, and we've done a couple of things. CJ can talk about some of the events that we've had recently.
Yeah, CJ, if you would talk about events. So there's an organization I'm a part of, and normally you'd get together and you'd have a lunch. And so what they're doing instead is we're having this event online, and they're sending everybody lunch. And so that was kind of an interesting way to do it. So we're still having it. So what are some of the ways that you are having events at AOI?
Well, we've been doing a few things, and Patrick talked about bringing on a new employee. So some of the things that we've done for new employees is we're sending a package to their home, and it has welcoming information that talks about the organization, and then of course their standard equipment that they're going to need to do their job, and having those communications, and then some caramels that we're sending. Early on, we did some virtual break rooms, and we played Pictionary, we played bingo, we had music trivia.
Happy hour.
It was a happy hour, yeah. And so all that was virtual. And so we had a virtual break room where we did a dog picture contest. We had high school pictures out there. Now that we're back, we're talking about potentially doing a mask contest, doing something fun with those type of things. Early on, Chris sent out a really nice note to everybody with some caramels that were made in our community, and then along with that particular company was donating them to nurses and healthcare workers. So it had a positive in, we were getting caramels at home, but we were also helping those, frontline workers. So that was a feel good for us at home too. We were doing our part and helping them. Some other things that we've done, we sent some photos in. We had somebody who retired. He had been with us for 20 years, and he was a little more quiet person and introverted, and so he didn't want anything real big, but that's not our style, so we kind of forced him a little bit.
We disregarded that.
But he really did enjoy it, and his wife did say, that she appreciated that we did something, and he commented about it later when I spoke to him as I was following up on some different benefit stuff. But we have a picture that We had some cupcakes. They were all individually encased so people could grab their own. Had them out on a table. We did it outside. Everybody was wearing masks. Chris was able to say a few words about him. And so it was fun that we were able to do that. And then we also had recently, just last week, one of our employees, she's expecting her first child. So we had a baby shower and we did the cupcakes that were enclosed again. And we went to Costco and they had little snack mix that was already pre-sealed. So we had that available, and drinks that were all individualized. So I mean, it made it, and then we measured all the chairs out, which was a little awkward, but we got to be together and we wore our mask. And she talked about her pregnancy, and nobody had seen her. Last time we'd seen her, she was like this big, and so it was cute to see her pregnant and see her baby bump, and she shared all of her presents, and so that was a lot of fun to do that. And it felt really good to have that interaction, even though we had to be distanced, and her husband came, so it was nice to meet him. It was just a lot of fun. We are talking about trying to do something, because we do typically do something with our employees, whether it's just employees and their spouses, or it's the family members. We had talked about last year that this summer we'd do something for the family. Excuse me, my throat is dry. But we're talking about maybe doing something with the bags tournament, or a family movie night. We're trying to figure out the logistics of that. We're fortunate we have a big parking lot area, and so we talked about measuring everything out and having people reserve if they're going to come, and bring their own blanket, their own drinks, and we'd have individualized popcorn that we could have for each person. So that we're coming up with some ideas, kind of out of the box. What can we do? And no ideas, bad idea. And so we're trying to figure that out. And okay, how would that work? So we're brainstorming right now, and it's a team of people. Everybody's, like Chris said, we're very collaborative, and so everybody's open to sharing their ideas and what can we do, and what does this look like, and how can it be safe, and what.
One of my favorite phrases is, we put the fun in dysfunction. You just own the dysfunction and, work around it, have fun.
It sounds like you guys have figured out a way to infuse fun into this environment, which is constantly evolving and not always fun. Adapting to it. Chris, you had mentioned the rules. Like, first you had to establish the rules. Mm-hmm. So how do you get buy-in for the rules when everybody doesn't agree with the rules?
Yeah, I think the strategy that we've taken is, first of all, we care about our employees. We care very much about our employees. And so keeping people safe and creating a sense of safety, whether it's physical safety or emotional safety, both of those things are part of our culture as well. We have a great safety record. But that emotional safety, I think the reason that some of these events have been fun and people have welcomed those is because they're able to participate in those feeling safe. So if we weren't doing the masks and we weren't doing the social distance, if we hadn't educated our people on these are the things that we all need to do now in order to stay safe. We're not making this up. This is the guidance that we're getting from credible sources in our community, from the business. There's a collaborative out there with the business community, the healthcare community, and our community leaders who have put a program together and said, economic recovery and reentry and keeping your people safe depends on you being able to do these things, so here's the things that you need to do. So we adopted those early on. And I believe that by saying this is what we've been told we need to do and helping people understand why that's important and implementing those things and modeling those things and reminding people of those things, that's what creates a safe environment for people to come in and go to the retirement party and go to the shower. And so after those events, I've asked people, did you feel safe? Yes, I felt absolutely safe. And we've got the whole spectrum. You know, we've got people, everybody feels a different way about things. Everybody has different information, different opinions. That's great. We had to have a source that we were getting that information from that felt credible. And we have to have an environment where when people come in, they feel safe. And so if we are safe, it gives us a lot of freedom to do a lot more things. So that's part of it. I think the other part is leveraging our culture to modify our behaviors. Our as in me too. You know, it's hard to put that I forget sometimes. And so we had to have visuals and cues, and you know, you got to hear it, you got to see it, you got to read it, you got to hear it again, you got to see it again. You need all of those things that help you change those ingrained behaviors, including walking around without a mask or getting too close to somebody. So we've spent a lot of time, partnership between our HR team and our leadership team and our marketing team, and bringing people in from different parts of the organization. How do we do this? And I think if you bring people together and say, this is our goal, how do we do this? You get some really incredible ideas. And I have been so impressed by, you know, we have these placemats that are out on the desks in our common areas at tables where you're not supposed to sit. And they look great. They look like us. They look like the stuff that we would do. It's not some ominous, like, weird thing. It doesn't look institutional. It looks like AOI. It looks like who we are. And there's even a little tongue-in-cheek thing going on in there. Like there's this
one working together is sort of our tagline. And it says still working together, just a little further apart, right?
So
like you can
I was like, oh, it's great.
You can just own that stuff. I think one of the things that you shouldn't overlook, though, is the weekly emails that Chris sent out. They're really heartfelt and earnest, and we didn't have to know everything, but there was a real intention to saying, here's what we're doing, here's why, and we're figuring it out as well, and just, you know, knowing that it's changing all the time. But I think those were super helpful in terms of setting tone of what we're going to do, and also keeping that culture kind of rolling, you know, that we are honest, humble, and kind, you know, and we're going to be tenacious. And
You're still all the things that made you what you were, just adapting to what this environment is now.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that, I don't think that we set out to do it in that way. I think we set out to figure out what do we need to do. But because of our culture and because of the people on the team, that's how it played out. And that's why I think this is none of us want to be doing this. This is not what we want to be doing right now. But I think there's incredible opportunity to leverage your culture and to create an environment of safety and to bring people together and to create leadership opportunities for other people and allow the creatives to do what they're good at. And we have people in our organization who are very fun. They're more fun than I am. Like they're fun. They know how to. They're fun. And so getting the fun people, how do we make this fun? Here's what we have to do. We've got to do these things. Tell me how to make this fun. Not that we're trying to make light of a very serious situation. We're not. But we are trying to bring some levity to it and figure out how to do it in a way that still feels like AOI.
Well, it's like you're modeling what this looks like. So here's the environment. The environment is the environment, but you can still be your organization. And I think that also translates it maybe into home life too, like modeling like, here's this environment, but you can still be yourself, be safe, have fun, and do the things that are most meaningful to you.
Mm-hmm. I think you have to, especially with we were having a conversation earlier today. There's a statistic out there that 30% of our population right now is experiencing a low-grade depression, right? If that's accurate, 30%, that's a lot of people. And one of the things that can combat that is that spirit of gratitude or levity or lightheartedness or joy. And so those things are important right now. I think we've got to continually strive to find ways to bring those things in. while being safe. And I think we can. We're not the only company that's working on this. There's lots of other companies that are trying to figure out how to do this, and we're paying attention to what they're doing as well to get some ideas.
So, pre-COVID, in many organizations, there's always this effort to bring people together, to break down silos. You get focused on what you're working on, but it seems like there's an extra layer during COVID. So how do you deal with that? How do you break down those barriers?
Misery loves company. No, but I mean that's a little sarcastic, but I think that's part of it. We are in this together. So using language that communicates that. We as an organization, we are trying to figure this out. I like to bring people in. We have a program called AOI Gives, and it's a group of people that we from different parts of the organization who in some way have already demonstrated leadership, teamwork. They kind of stand out for one reason or another, and we take these individuals and we bring them together and we create this AOI Gives committee. They don't normally work with each other on anything else. And the task is find an organization out there in our community that we can all as a company rally around and support and do something good with. If there's a volunteer opportunity, that's what we really want. We want the whole company to have an opportunity to work together to do some good. Well, I didn't think we'd be doing it this year because of COVID and everything else going on. And we were having a mental health conversation in one of our leadership meetings. And we were hearing the distress from some of the stress and the sadness and the grief of things lost, whether it's sports or whatever, kids in school, whatever that is. And so it felt like this year more than ever, we need that group to come together. We need something that we can do where we can get outside of this and we can find some good to do in the community and we can do that together. And so I told this year's team, this is going to be the hardest year ever for the AOI Gives Committee, but probably the year we need it more than ever. We've got to get some joy going, and a lot of times that comes from doing good things for somebody else. So I think and so they're charged with bring people together, bring our company together to do something good. So I think doing that, tasking other people, creating opportunities for people within the organization to take that on, and not having all the answers or all the solutions, but finding people that can do that.
What would you say is your biggest cultural challenge right now? And how do companies address that?
What do you think? I think that the biggest cultural challenge that we have right now is the tension created by people being on different ends of the spectrum when it comes to COVID in general. Mm-hmm. Because there's different information out there, different sources, different opinions, different circumstances. Some individuals are maybe in a situation where they feel they have no risk, and so it feels less important. Some people are high risk, and it's very serious. There's different political perspectives. It's very complicated. There's so much information out there that's inconsistent, and so that creates tension. And we don't have all the answers when those things come up. We can't answer every single question regarding COVID, and there's certain things I don't know. We have to go find out. What do we do in this situation? I don't know. I need to go find out. But because there's different opinions, strong opinions, on what we should do, that tension runs the risk of breaking down relationships and causing conflict. And that's okay. I mean, that can be opportunity to strengthen relationships depending on how we handle that. But I think that's the biggest issue, because where normally you don't bring politics into the workplace, or you try not to, COVID has created this scenario where it does. And so now we've got silos.
But I think the way we offset that is taking the We Rise thing and saying, this is what we're following. So there was a thing out there, we said, this is what we're doing. These are the experts, we're gonna listen to them. And we take the PRAM score, we track it every day. We say, this is what, when it gets to these things, because this is what they're saying, we're following this. So then everybody's kind of on the same page. It doesn't really matter what you believe, this is what we're doing, and this is why, and it's based on this, instead of just, it's arbitrarily, Chris feels this way, CJ feels this way, well, Patrick weighed in on this. So, you know, it kind of takes that out of it and sets it up a little differently. And I think that helps offset some of that.
It sounds like there's strength just in your position based upon here is where we are getting these recommendations. But what about individually, employee to employee? Sometimes there's these situations where if I have to listen to them talk about X again, are there any lines for that, or how do you suggest organizations handle that?
I think it's been the same, you know, from a business perspective, you know, even prior to COVID, you're going to have those interactions. And so you're coaching them in the same way, helping them create understanding or a different mindset, or educating them about different personality types and how they can work together more productively and have conversations that are positive and focused on work and building that relationship. So putting them in situations where they're working together that can help create that bond for them to develop that relationship to do their job, and bringing back that focus to the business. I mean, that's a lot of what we've had to do. COVID functions a little bit as a distraction. Even though you need to look at safety and have it part of your business, it still can distract from what you want to focus on. And so bringing that back is a lot of what we have had to do as far as coaching and focusing on those type of things. So I think it's the same that you had yesterday. We had a conversation, I had a conversation last night with a friend too, that businesses have had to deal with challenges, throughout history. We've had different, here in Omaha we had the tornadoes that came through that impacted a lot of businesses. We've had those type of things, the floods, the fires in California, those type of things. Every business has had to deal with challenges, and it's how we overcome them. And so this is just another challenge, and how do we overcome it as a business and focus and rally together. So I think that is a big thing, and that's kind of aha moment for me last night. It was like, oh yeah, we have had to do these things before. And these were the lessons that we learned. These were the things that we applied during those times. It wasn't worldwide as much, but that's a good thing because people have tried different things and we can learn from them. So I think it's just perspective, and how we approach it is really important.
It really sounds like there's this delicate balancing act, because you've got the emotional well-being of employees, physical safety. You're trying to do your job, run your business. You're trying to have fun, keep everyone engaged. So it just sounds like this balancing act that there's a lot of things going on that you have to manage.
Yep.
So we did save some time for questions at the end, and I do want to mention that a lot of times we'll get questions afterwards, which is completely fine, but we did save some time for that. But I wanted to ask you, CJ in particular, or anyone, but CJ, you had mentioned that there are no bad ideas. Really? Are there?
Well, there may be some that logistically will not work as easily, but I think putting them out there and kind of saying, will that work, and just asking questions, because sometimes you may have, I have my own biases. It's like I may think, well, that won't work, so it's asking those questions. So how would we do that if this were to occur? How would we do that if this occurred? And then exploring it. So in a way, there is no bad ideas.
Well, there's no bad ideas when you want to be creative, right?
Right.
When you're
Yes.
starting with a place of creativity, hey, we need to be creative to work our way out of this situation. You have to I like to sometimes start with the worst ideas because I think that's fun and like, okay, what is the worst idea we could come up with? And then that starts to spark some of the other stuff.
Oh, so you're giving the freedom to offer
Right.
a crazy, because I was wondering how you labeled it the worst idea. So
Yeah.
you're saying it's the worst idea.
Yeah, let's just come up with the worst ideas first, like what's the worst thing that can happen? What's the worst question they're going to ask us? And then the other thing is, it's that improv thing where we just dealt with this yesterday in a group that we were in. It's that yes and. Don't start with no, and I think a lot of people like to start it like, no, that won't work because of this. Well, let's just game it out. It doesn't hurt. We're just talking. We're just, and then hopefully you can get to a place of, you get an aha moment or there's a kernel there that you can build on.
We have a question from our chat. It says, what can businesses do to aid the mental health of their employees during a time like this?
Create an environment that feels safe. Express care. Let people know that you care about their safety. Have credible resources that you're using to decide what to do. I think also supporting. There's a controversial mandate out there. I think it creates more of a sense of safety to follow those recommendations, because I think it. We've got OSHA, we've got state and local authorities. We've got different people that we're accountable to, and I think if we can create an environment that feels like we're accountable to someone for doing the right thing, I think that creates a sense of safety. I think CJ is also really, really good at helping employees one-on-one deal with very sensitive issues, and they feel heard, and they can talk about what they're dealing with. And it may be completely off the wall. It may be something that, it doesn't, it's something that they heard in the news that, it's this new piece of information that maybe hasn't been completely vetted or there hasn't been guidance on that. CJ does a great job of validating that and taking that into consideration and then applying that to our program. Does that fit? Have we accommodated some of those different viewpoints within our framework? And I think we have, but I don't know if you would have anything to add to that, but.
Yeah, I think that's the most important thing, is to create an environment of understanding and being able to do some additional education. They're not always going to agree, but there are rules that we have to follow that keep us all safe. And in our industry specifically, I think we're all aware of that. We may get frustrated with them because they slow us down a little bit, or we've always had to wear hard hats and safety glasses and work boots because there's a reason that we have those things in place to keep us safe. Guards on the saws, yes, they get in the way sometimes, but they keep everybody safe. So it's those things, and that helps us have a language. A common language, I think, is very important too. Having that common language, it helps us have a common language with our employees that we can, reference. These are our core values. This supports the core values. This is what OSHA and safety, and we're doing these things now. This is no different. So it helps us have that common language so that we can communicate effectively as an organization and bring people in the fold. Even if they don't personally agree, they have understanding as to why they need to follow it.
I think that another thing that maybe we haven't touched on is getting the rules down. Like, okay, here's what it takes to make us safe. If we do these things, we'll be safe. Now we can get back to work. Now we can get back to normal. We're wearing masks during normal, but I have found that the more we're able to focus on our normal stuff that we were all doing pre-COVID, and all of those goals and initiatives and strategies and things that we were working through, it is incredibly energizing. And we're able to do it now more effectively because everybody feels safe, and we've put these other things in place. We don't have to worry about that so much because we've got this framework in place that allows us a lot of freedom, and that is energizing and that feels good, and I think that contributes tremendously to mental health.
Yes.
We are back to work. We have work to do, important work to do. We've got to do this together. We're working through some, new branding strategies, and we've got a Unity Council. We've got all these things that we want to be doing. We're now better equipped to do that because we've created a safe environment.
You've created a safe environment and a fun environment, and I just want to mention very quickly masks. So we have this mask mandate in Omaha right now. That's the situation. And so one of the things I've started doing is matching my mask to what I'm wearing. It's kind of a fun thing. But CJ, you have the mask that I actually desire.
So this is my fun one. And I actually bought this to honor somebody recently, and so it is a fun one. But I've gotten lots of positive comments when I wore it out and about. I was at the grocery store, and somebody stopped me in the parking lot and said, "Hey, where'd you get your mask? My wife is a teacher, and she's looking for something like that." So it was great. So yeah, it's fun to have some fun with masks.
It's for all the divas.
Yes, exactly.
We have another question for you. Do you have any go-to fun activities AOI has implemented during COVID and remote meetings?
Well, no, I don't think. Other than I think having a little bit of fun with the technology faux pas as they come. There's levity that comes from. We've developed these hand signals for things that are like we can't hear. We had to figure out what the hand signal was going to be for your unmute, so that we weren't all doing different signals. So so now that's funny to go like this or like we've come up with these little whimsical gestures to mean different things. We've got a couple of leadership meetings where we start every meeting off with your personal best and your business best. Over the last week, what has been your personal best and your business best? And sometimes those are, this is what I ate for dinner last week that was awesome, or I planted a garden, or whatever those things. So there is still that opportunity to connect on a personal level, even virtually.
Well, I think as we're going through this, many of us, this is new. This is a switch, so we all need a little bit of grace, whether it's at work. Like I was coming in this morning and my hands were completely full, and I take 2 steps, the mask. So I had to put everything down, go in the car and grab it. So just having a little bit of grace. Or I was in a Zoom meeting and I had roofers at my house. So the roofers are banging. Then someone knocks on the door, the dogs start barking. And I thought to myself, I am that person in the meeting this time because there's so much happening. So just having a little fun. It sounds like you're in your organization, you know how to bring levity into the situation.
Yep.
So we have another question. What were some of your community resources you used for safety references?
So we used the Omaha Chamber of Commerce has the We Rise program, and they have partnered a lot with UNMC, so we've also used UNMC, some of their resources that they have available. And then we, of course, initially and continue to use the CDC. I think they have some great posters, they have some great information out there, stuff that's already completely done. So if you're just beginning to come back, you can go out there, and that's what we initially used. And then we made it our own because it was a quick fix, to have those posters there. They were professional. They covered the information that we needed. They have a lot more than they had before. So they're a great resource. And, the World Health Organization has some resources too. They have videos also available out there on how to wear a mask, how to maintain masks. And I feel that the CDC is that reference. They've dealt with this from the very beginning, and so those are the main three that we're using is the CDC, and they're coordinating with the World Health Organization, and then the We Rise through the Chamber, and then the UNMC. We're very fortunate to have those resources here locally too.
I love my favorite resource, and CJ's got to get into the weeds a little bit more if there is a potential exposure, and like she's got to have a little bit more detail on some of the things that we're dealing with. But my favorite source, honestly, is the Chamber's We Rise program, because it's comprehensive, it's apolitical, and it ties health and safety to economic recovery. And I feel like we all want everyone to be able to get back to work. We want the restaurants open, we want the schools open, we want all of that. And what that program does is says, if we want economic recovery, these are the things that we have to do. And I feel like it creates a motivation that everybody can relate to. So, and it's simple, it's easy to follow. Some of those technical sites, there's just so much information there. So, anybody could go out to the Chamber and find the We Rise program and read it and fully be able to follow it and understand it. And there's all kinds of links and other sources in there, but as a starting place, that's where I would recommend a business owner would start.
Yeah, it's kind of it's kind of like a basic survival guide.
It's palatable.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we could all use a basic survival guide during this time. Well, I'd just like to mention that this session will be available a little bit later today. So feel free to share it with anyone, share this very important information. But I do have a question for each of you, if you wouldn't mind sharing your perspective. At AOI, you have been through all of the phases. So what do you think is key for an organization to keep in mind as you are bringing employees back?
I think the most important thing is to have that communication piece in a variety of ways to help create understanding, and the safety piece of it. That creates your base point there, and then everybody can move forward.
I think one of the most important things to be able to do is develop the confidence based on these, having the right information to develop confidence in making the decisions, being decisive. This is what we're going to do, because a lot of times people just want to know what are we going to do, and I think being able to say it, here's what we're going to do, here's how we're going to get there, here's why. I think that that's important, but doing that from a place of credibility and collaboration.
I think it's that intentional and authentic communication as well. I think that's the piece. And then my little pet peeve is, if you're going to stick signs up all over, why not just do it nicely? Put a frame. Don't just stick it up with Scotch tape. Make it look intentional. Make it look like it's part of the environment, not just something like an afterthought, right?
Mm-hmm. All very good advice. CJ, Chris, Patrick, thank you so much for joining us today, talking about this very important topic and sharing this information. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you for joining us today live at MCC North Express. This will be up later today. Be sure to share this information. Have a great day.